Everything changed in a matter of seconds. In the National Football League, a dream can take an entire lifetime to build, but it literally just takes one awkward hit on the turf to completely collapse. Let's look at what Washington Commanders general manager Adam Peters said recently. Quote, "He's had an incredible offseason. He's healthy." Now, on the surface, right, that sounds like your standard run-of-the-mill optimistic preseason rhetoric. We hear it every single year. Every team is in the best shape of their lives. But if you truly understand the sheer terror that has gripped this franchise over the last 12 months, well, those words are a desperate exhale. Actually, an incredible offseason usually means a guy added 5 pounds of muscle or, finally mastered a new playbook. But for a team totally traumatized by catastrophic injury, an incredible offseason literally just means survival. It's the sound of an organization holding its collective breath, praying that their foundational pillars haven't already cracked under the unbearable, unforgiving weight of the NFL.
Welcome back to NFL Nexus for another explainer. Today, we're opening the vault on a franchise teetering right on the absolute edge of a cliff. We aren't just reading box scores today, guys. We're documenting a cinematic, brutal battle for survival in the nation's capital. Think of this as the anatomical dissection of a team on the brink. We're looking at a golden boy broken down by the ruthless physics of the sport, and a beloved, hard-hitting veteran suddenly staring right down the barrel of his own athletic mortality. We're examining the absolute breaking point of the 2026 Washington Commanders.
But before we descend into the film room and uncover exactly what's at stake this season, you need to be part of what we're building here. Hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus. We decode the game at its absolute highest level. Go ahead and drop a like on this explainer. Hit the comments to let me know if you genuinely think this roster can survive the impending storm. And hey, if you want to support these deep dive, documentary-style breakdowns, become a channel member today. Join the Nexus. All right, let's turn the tape on.
Section 1, the Washington breaking point. Let's get right into it.
To really grasp the absolute desperation surrounding the Commanders right now, we gotta revisit the actual crime scene that was the 2025 season. 5. Just let that number sit there in the dead silence for a beat. 5 wins. 12 agonizing, soul-crushing losses. Man, it was a grueling, unforgiving campaign. The physical and emotional toll that a season like that takes on a locker room, it honestly cannot be overstated. When a team finishes 5-12, the ashes don't just blow away in the offseason wind. No, they settle deep into the carpet of the facility. 5 wins means jobs are officially on the line. It means the honeymoon phase of a new regime is over, violently replaced by the cold, harsh business of winning football games. And we aren't just talking about losing gracefully here. We're talking about humiliating fourth-quarter collapses, blowouts where the opposing offense simply kneeled the ball out of pity in the final minutes. It's the kind of year where the ice tubs are constantly overflowing, the training room is dead silent, and those chartered plane rides home, they literally feel like attending a funeral. That number 5 represents a totally fractured locker room that must piece itself back together right now or face a total demolition.
Part 2. Jayden Daniels, make or break.
And sitting right at the center of this franchise's fragile reconstruction is the most important position in professional sports. Make no mistake, this is no longer just a standard injury update. This is a Hollywood-level battle for a young quarterback's career. You remember when Jayden Daniels entered the league, right? He was electric. The undisputed offensive rookie of the year. But here's the thing. The NFL is an apex predator. It hunts for weaknesses. It searches for exposed ribs and lanky frames. And last year, the predator caught him. I want you to really feel the week-by-week physical dismantling of a franchise quarterback. Week 2, a left knee sprain. For a right-handed quarterback, that left leg is everything, isn't it? It's the plant leg. It's the anchor that generates the torque you absolutely need to drive the football 30 yards downfield. So with that knee compromised, Daniels was forced to alter his throwing mechanics, overcompensating with his upper body and right leg. And what happens when a professional athlete compensates? The biomechanics fail. Then comes week 7, a right hamstring strain. Now, the dual-threat weapon, the man whose legs terrified defensive coordinators into playing conservative zones, is totally trapped in the pocket, a sitting duck, unable to escape the rush. And then, week 9, a dislocated left elbow. Imagine it, a blindside hit in the pocket, an awkward plant of the arm on the frozen turf, and a sickening pop that echoed across the stadium. The agonizing realization that his own body was betraying him. He even re-aggravated that exact same elbow in December of 2025. It was a methodical, brutal deconstruction of a phenomenal, generational talent.
10. That is the exact number of games the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year was forced to watch in street clothes. 10 weeks. Imagine standing on the frozen sideline, a heavy winter coat over his shoulders, a headset pressed tightly over his ears, just helplessly watching his offense sputter and die without him.
10 weeks of answering relentless, agonizing questions from the medical staff. In a league where your availability is quite literally your best ability, missing 10 games doesn't just hurt your team's record in the short term. It plants this dark, lingering seed of doubt in the minds of the front office and the fan base. Can his lanky frame actually survive a violent 15-year career in this league? Or was his rookie season just a fleeting illusion?
Now, I want you to look closely at the terrifying reality of what those compound injuries actually did to his confidence, his timing, and his mechanics. This is a granular look at statistical regression. Let's consider his 2024 rookie year. 3,568 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, and a sparkling 69% completion rate. He was operating like a surgeon out there, dissecting complex NFL defenses with total ease. But now, look at the nightmare of year 2. Barely over 1,200 passing yards, a measly 10 total touchdowns. But you know what the most alarming metric is? It's his completion percentage, plummeting almost 10 full points to 60.6%. Think about what a 10-point drop actually means on the field. It means perfectly timed slant routes sailing wide. It means a drastic increase in third and long situations. It means stalled drives, an exhausted defense forced right back onto the field with zero rest, and a punter working overtime. This wasn't just a quarterback missing time. No, this was a quarterback who, when he finally stepped back onto the field, was a panicked ghost of his former self. The drop-off is stark, it is totally alarming, and to be honest, it's entirely unsustainable.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is how Daniels responds when pushed to the absolute brink of irrelevance. Because he didn't just stay in Washington to lick his wounds. No, he completely uprooted his life this offseason. He relocated to Los Angeles for intensive, specialized, around-the-clock rehab, but he didn't stop at just healing his ligaments. He went to a specialized throwing coach to literally rebuild his mechanics from the ground up. We're talking about hours and hours of breaking down film, tweaking his release point by fractions of an inch, and adding necessary muscle mass to his frame to create a literal layer of physical armor against 300-pound defensive linemen. And you know what? That maniacal diligence paid off. Like Adam Peters said, he arrived at Phase 1 workouts fully cleared, looking completely transformed. He is doing everything humanly possible, down to the molecular level, to rewrite his own ending.
Section 3. The Sonny Styles Threat.
So, if the offense is defined by a desperate recovery, the defense is defined by a seismic, locker room-altering arrival. The front office didn't just draft for depth this year, guys. They drafted for blood. Consider the profile of their first-round selection, Sonny Styles. The highest-graded off-ball linebacker in the last 6 draft classes. 6 entire classes of elite college athletes, and he grades above all of them, boasting a near-perfect relative athletic score. Let's really break down what a near-perfect RAS means for a second. It means his 40-yard dash, his vertical jump, his broad jump, and his wingspan put him in the 99th percentile of human beings to literally ever play the sport. We are talking about a physical freak of nature, okay? A modern-day defensive terminator engineered in a lab to track down lightning-fast running backs from sideline to sideline. Listen to me. You do not spend a premium first-round draft pick on a player with a profile like this to just have him patiently hold a clipboard and learn behind a veteran. No, you draft him to violently take someone else's job immediately.
Which brings us to Part 4, Frankie Luvu on notice.
This is the devastating collateral damage of this ruthless business. Frankie Luvu is officially on notice. Look, Luvu has been a massive fan favorite. We all know this. He's been the emotional heartbeat of the defense, a guy whose chaotic energy and relentless motor made him beloved by the entire fan base. But nostalgia does not pay the bills in the National Football League. Suddenly, this beloved veteran is locked in a precarious, high-stakes fight for his professional life. 21. Let the silence hang on that number for a moment, just like we did with 5 and 10. 21 missed tackles by Frankie Luvu in 2025. I want you to picture the unforgiving film sessions on Tuesday mornings. Imagine the defensive meeting room dead silent, the projector clicks, and a crucial 3rd and short from November plays on the screen. The opposing running back hits the flat, Luvu takes a horrible angle, completely whiffs on the wrap-up, and a routine 3-yard gain turns into a 40-yard backbreaker that literally costs the team the game. Now, imagine that happening 21 separate times. Every single miss played back in slow motion in front of all your peers. A missed tackle is essentially a broken promise to your teammates. It is the glaring, undeniable start of a veteran's physical decline.
We are dissecting the cold, hard reality of Luvu's 2025 tape here. And honestly, the metrics are haunting. Just look at his sack production. Slashed from a dominant 8 down to a meager 3. He just wasn't getting home. His overall Pro Football Focus grade plummeted to 53.7. That ranked him an abysmal 64th out of 88 qualified linebackers in the whole league. But you know what the most damning statistic of all is? The passer rating allowed in coverage? 133.2. Remember, a perfect passer rating in the NFL is 158.3. So when opposing offensive coordinators saw Luvu on the field, they actively hunted him. They isolated him in space with tight ends and receiving backs, and when quarterbacks targeted him, they essentially posted first-ballot Hall of Fame passing numbers. The production didn't just dip in 2025, it entirely cratered into the earth.
And to make matters infinitely worse, Luvu is now staring down a catastrophic scheme change that threatens to expose him even further. Let's look at the architectural differences between a 4-3 defense and a 3-4 defense. Luvu made his massive contract as a high-energy, 4-3 specialized blitzer. In a 4-3, you have 4 massive defensive linemen eating up the offensive line. Luvu was kept clean. He was a heat-seeking missile fired freely through open A gaps and B gaps to cause total chaos in the backfield. But now? Well, enter new defensive coordinator Daronte Jones. Jones is bringing a multiple base 3-4 defense. In a 3-4, there are only 3 down linemen. That means the linebackers are entirely exposed. Luvu now has to step up and physically take on 320-pound pulling offensive guards head-on. He has to shed massive blocks in space, read complex keys, and drop into deep zone coverages. It is literally the exact opposite of what made him special. He is a smaller, explosive blitzer being asked to play as a heavy, block-shedding thumper. He's a square peg being violently hammered into a round hole by a coaching staff that has absolutely zero allegiance to his past achievements.
So it all leads up to the cinematic cliffhanger, right? A haunting question that binds the offensive and defensive crises together into one unified narrative. Was the prior success just a fluke? Think about it. For Jayden Daniels, was that magical Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign just a momentary flash of brilliance before defensive coordinators figured out exactly how to hit him, break him, and rattle his confidence? And for Frankie Luvu, were his peak years just the sheer luck of a perfect 4-3 scheme that brilliantly hid his coverage flaws that are now bleeding out into the open for the whole world to see? The league adapts at terrifying speeds, and I promise you, it shows absolutely no mercy to those who cannot evolve with it.
Which brings us to Section 5, a franchise's ultimate test.
This is no longer just about a quarterback's dislocated elbow or a veteran linebacker's missed tackles. The overarching survival of the Commanders' 2026 season rests entirely on how these microdramas unfold. If Daniels cannot stay upright, the offense drowns. If the linebacking core cannot execute Daronte Jones's vision, the defense completely shatters. The entire ecosystem is connected, and the suffocating internal competition closing in around the veterans is very, very real. It's not just the freakish athleticism of Sonny Styles breathing down Luvu's neck. It's the emergence of Leo Chenal, a brutal downhill thumper who is perfectly designed to take on those 320-pound guards in a 3-4 scheme. It's the rise of Jordan McGay, a young, hyper-athletic linebacker who can actually cover tight ends sideline to sideline. These are young, hungry players who fit the exact physical mold the new coaching staff demands. Add to that the terrifying, inescapable shadow of the looming 2027 free agency, and the writing isn't just on the wall, it is carved into stone. If Frankie Luvu doesn't adapt to this scheme immediately, his days in the nation's capital are tragically, unavoidably numbered.
So we end exactly where we began. Everything changed in a matter of seconds. An awkward fall on a frozen field, a first-round draft card turned into the commissioner, a new defensive coordinator walking through the facilities doors with a brand new playbook, and suddenly, an entire roster's destiny is completely rewritten. You know, the unforgiving reality of the NFL is that the train never stops to wait for anyone to catch up. For Jayden Daniels, fighting his own body, for Frankie Luvu, fighting Father Time in a brand new scheme, for the entire Washington Commanders organization, the clock is deafeningly loud right now. Will they rise from the toxic ashes of a 5-12 nightmare and forge a new identity, or will they totally crumble under the immense, crushing pressure of the Shield? History tells us that the NFL doesn't do fairy tales. It only does results. Keep watching, because this season is going to be an absolute thriller, and someone is absolutely going to lose their job. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer here at NFL Nexus. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the film room for the next deep dive.